Hello and welcome to another video. Now this is a weird video. We're kind of going forward in time, backward in time, backward in time, forward in time, forward in time, and then backwards again. As we're filming this the day after, and then we're going to be talking about an event from a few months ago as well. So this is going to be a bit of a weird one, but do stay with us because it will make sense, I promise. Kind of, maybe. I'm not sure. But all I know is we're going back to the scare season again. Yes, I'm fully aware it is December. I know it's December, but we're going back to scare season. We are going to eventually do a talk about what our top mazes and review of the scare season is. We just haven't quite got that far yet. But this is something a little bit different. So, Walsall Scare Maze is a scare maze obviously in Walsall. And they do a scare event in October, and they also do a scare event in December, known as Christmassacre. Now, Christmassacre is always a Christmas overlay of the October maze, and it takes that same maze kind of concept and gives it a Christmas overlay with a different theme, sort of story. You know, you still get the general kind of consensus of the story and theme that the original maze has, but the kind of overlay comes in with more of a Christmassy feel and changes the story and how everything operates in that maze. We didn't actually do a video about Walsall Scare Maze over Halloween, just because we were so busy with so many other things, and we didn't really get around to it. We did go and experience the maze, but we went to experience it in its earlier form, family friend preview instead of the full operating maze. And one of the reasons we didn't do the filming for it, on top of the fact that we were so busy, was that we didn't feel like it was a full representation. Obviously, it was in its testing phase. You know, it's still learning and developing when we experienced it. But we are now going to talk about it and kind of give you a bit of a sense as to how that maze operated and what we thought of that one. And then go ahead and see what we thought of Christmassacre. This is the first year I've been able to compare the Christmassacre version to the original version, because last year we only did Christmassacre. So yeah, let's get into that. So Walsall Scare Maze this year, they had a theme called The Cage, a complete overhaul of the attraction from last year's Haunting of Amelia Birchill, which was themed around the haunting of a house with, you know, more ghosts and, especially in Christmassacre, possessed toys and playthings. This year, completely different. The Cage is a prison with various inmates who are experiments to the great Dr. Graft. He is this twisted scientist experimenting on these inmates, turning them into mutations and monsters, essentially, with high levels of aggression to fight to the death in a death match called The Cage. High-ranking officials and anyone willing to try and earn a bit of money can bet on those to hopefully win big if their monster wins and survives the cage. Now, obviously, that isn't quite how the maze operates for you as a guest. In the original version of The Cage, you went through the maze, and, you know, you went originally to go and bet on some money. You know, at the beginning, the guards are like welcoming you in to kind of earn your money. You know, you get a guard scene in the office where you get a little bit of an insight as to which ones are the best ones to vote for and not play on. Then you obviously have that interaction with the doctor himself. All the way through, you're interacting with the inmates and getting to know them and seeing just how crazy they are, essentially. The story on that one ultimately would end with you entering the cage as one of the fighters yourself. Almost like you've been completely misled the entire time and they've lured you into the cage. Almost just like fodder for the mutations almost. And it was really cool. Like, the finale sequence on the original was insane. You know, it's intense, high energy. You have the cast in there that are sending you around in circles. It's just generally a maze at the end. And they were just intense, weren't they?
We loved it.
I mean, the actors were intense throughout the entire run of the cage. But you had like different levels, so a lot of the ones earlier on in the main sections of the maze were more just crazed and a bit weird, so like psychotic. A lot of them, especially as we were just about to meet the doctor in the clean rooms, very much like, oh, you're dirty, we need to make sure you're clean for the doctor. Yes, he doesn't like it when you're not clean, kind of thing. And it was really cool the way you kind of went through this prison and saw the different kind of characters. But that finale was just awesome, you know.
Enjoyed it in both runs, I believe.
Yeah, so what did you think of the original version before we go on to Christmassacre?
So, the one before, I enjoyed it. It was great. Well, what can I say? They did it every time. They came at us. They gave us exactly what we wanted. We couldn't ask for any more. Intense from the get-go.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, at the time, one or two needed to sharpen up. They sharpened up.
Yeah, the
And
reviews
they
we heard
gave
near the
us
end.
they gave a really good finished product.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
The maximum security hellhole. Follow orders, or you'll end.
Yeah. There she goes. But all out safely.
So, for Christmassacre, Dr Graft and the experiments had returned. Now, it was a very different storyline and something a little bit different that we'd not seen in many mazes before. And when we did see this in a maze before, it didn't work very well. Anyone who remembers Extreme Scream and Witches of Hardlock Wood will know that I wasn't a big fan of their glow-in-the-dark, glow-stick approach to Witches of Hardlock Wood, just because it was too bright, there was too much going on with the lights, too many glow sticks, and they were just too powerful, it just didn't really work. However, the cage completely corrects that and makes it so much better. This year, the cage was lights out, and how that operated was, it was a cage with lights out. Easy enough to say. The general consensus of the story was that the inmates were in the middle of their big Christmas party. Because even inmates have a party, obviously. And they're all in a very big festive spirit. Unfortunately, one of Dr. Graft's experimentations had knocked out the power fuses and taken out the power of the entire facility. As you can imagine, the inmates weren't the most happy that their party had been interrupted, and they needed the emergency electrician's crew to come and fix the issue. That's where you come in. Well, we came in this case. It was our job to go through the cage and find the points to restore the power. Now, this was where I thought it was quite cool, because I was expecting either like these big chunky glow sticks that we've been given at Witches, or a little tiny dinky glow stick, but they were like custom made fuse
They
lights.
were really good.
They were awesome, like proper fuse things, which emitted light, but they didn't emit too much light either.
It was enough glow to illuminate immediately about 1.5 feet in front of you, and nothing else.
And we definitely noticed that in certain scenes. From the get-go, it was just so creepy and eerie walking through. Because, by the way, they sent you in the groups you arrived in. You weren't being sent in a full batch of like 8 or 10 like they did at the main Halloween event. You're being sent in batches of 2 or 3 or 1, 5. Depends on what group you turned up in. In our case, we were 3 because we had Darkshine with us as well. So there's 3 of us and just 3 of us, which really made for that intense,
It made it more personal
experience. It was creepy, especially going around those first corners of the cage. You know, obviously most of it's like in pretty much complete darkness or really low light. Going around with just this glow fuse to light your way, and it was creepy, very creepy. Especially when the characters, you know, there's going to be someone there, but you just don't know where they are, where they're coming from, and some of them caught us off guard a few times.
They got us a good few times.
But sure, the first one got me quite badly. Actually, I know I screamed a bit. So, but it's the way that they are using the light is so good. There was one sequence just before you go meet Dr. Graft, which is essentially a blackout section completely. And it's like a maze with like loads of close-quartered fencing and slatting. And like, yeah, there's no light bleed in that room. And I literally got lost in there with my little glow fuse. And I was like holding it up slowly, and it was illuminate the face of the actor that was like coming around the corner. But because of the way the light was reflecting, I could only see her teeth to start off with.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really, really freaky. Like, she was really good at getting around that maze. She knew that maze in the dark. Oh, it was scary. It was really scary. It was so good. But there was a thing that you enjoyed in that maze, the interactive points.
The interactive points, which were giant, almost emergency stop buttons, the comedic kind, where that you'd slap it and it'd bring the generator slightly back up, so that the inmates can enjoy a 30-second Christmas party.
Yeah, it was flashing. Anytime you found one of those buttons in certain scenes, it would flash the entire scene to life. Christmas music, Christmas lights. And the way the inmates reacted was hilarious. They'd like proper go into party mode again. The kitchen scene was probably my favourite for that.
Yeah.
When there was like 3 inmates in the kitchen, hit this button and it just turned into a full-blown Christmas party. It was like, yes, so much fun. And again, it was great to have that interaction with Dr. Graft in there as well, because he had that Christmassy references. You know, I like how he played. He wasn't really interested in the Christmas party. He was more interested in getting everything fixed so he could do his work. Because, of course, Dr. Graft's work never ceases. And in this case, it definitely didn't.
No, almost had me for spare parts.
Yeah, and then we unfortunately had the lights go down again. Sorry. So obviously, with the maze, you continue going through and you reach that kind of final sections. Now, the intensity ramped up, especially as we were getting into the later sections of the maze. You know, you had the ones who were really in the mood for that Christmas party. And then as you got closer towards the generator room, you know, they were getting more intense. Yeah. There was some characters, especially over that section, who were a lot more intense. Like the chef was a standout for me. It was hilarious the way he kind of like just told me off for not having a fuse. For reference, we had 2 fuses between the 3 of us. And, you know, some of them had their own light sources. So, like, the chef had his own little flashlight torch. And, yeah, they were using them for some pretty effective scares. You know, I was temporarily blinded by it because he took away my night vision by flashing me in the eye with it, sort of thing. But especially in the last few corridors, the actors in that last section were, like, pretty intense.
The shower block lot were...
Yeah.
They were evil.
Well, you lost your fuse.
Yeah, I know. To a guy without a shirt.
He lost his fuse. Then I had to get the fuse back. But I liked that kind of way that they were taking away the light source, and, you know, that responsibility you had to keep that. Losing it kind of added to the experience a bit, because you're like, oh no. But everyone in that last section, you know, they were all pretty intense.
But throughout the maze, we did see that, considering they had the home maze advantage on us, they were using every inch of that maze to their advantage. Like, they knew what they could do to certain parts to get higher ground on you and get a high up scare instead of I'm straight in your face, what you're going to do. Or they were trying to grab the back of your calf and, like, get the muscle to get you to go forwards.
Well, it's like we were in one scene, in one of the midway scenes, and it's a scripted scene, so you're interacting with a character in the scene, and there's a window behind us, and I completely forgot it was there. And yeah, I felt my hood being yanked back.
We both got yanked on that one.
Yeah, like, they're really good at using the environment and opportunities. But the finale... So the finale of the original version of the cage was intense enough as it was. You know, you were unleashed into this cage with these inmates who were misleading you, misguiding you, getting in your way, and you were trapped in there with them for a solid, like, couple of minutes. This time, it had improved. So, again, you had that point where you put the generator, you fuse in the generator, restores the power, yay! The only way out is through the cage. So, it kind of takes away that sinister look of you're going into the cage to fight for the death. But they keep the cage element there. But there's been changes in there. You know, Christmas lights, Christmas theming, high energy music track of Christmas music going off. They'd actually put more sheetings up this time as well. So I don't know if it was in the original version of the Walsall maze this time, because when we did it, there was no sheeting in the cage section. We could see through the cages. In this version, and it might just be for this version, correct in the comments, because obviously we didn't do the full version of it this year. In this version, they had sheeting up across the cages, and it was like kind of like a Santa's grotto, I think, with the whole sheeting looking like an ice grotto or something. But we couldn't see where we were going in this maze, and we were lost.
We was.
The 2 guys who were in there were intense. Very intense in there. Like, they were constantly on us, finding us. And it's the benefit of having a small group in there. They were constantly finding us in different places. But it will never not be freaky to me when you hear your name being shouted in a scare maze. So obviously we do a lot with Walsall. We know a lot of the guys who work at Walsall. But it will never not be freaky to me when you go through a scare maze and you just hear Elise being shouted. You know who you are. That it did freak me out a bit. But we've both had it a few times this scare season, and every time it just catches you off guard in a whole new way. But that finale sort of cage section, I love the idea of a sort of run around in chaos mode like that, where you're stuck in an area for a time. It kind of reminds me a bit of Dad's Game's Panic at Alton Towers. I know it weren't the most popular experience in the world, but I did enjoy that kind of element of Daz Games Panic, where you were stuck in a maze, an actual maze, not a maze, but an actual maze. And I loved that kind of element of being lost. And I think Cage really brings it in quite well. And especially in this new thing where you got a lot of smaller groups.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. But don't think that's where it ends. They do have one more surprise for you when you leave that door. And yeah, in the dark, because you've gone from the cage, which is all lit up and glowing and fancy with all these Christmas lights, into this very dark corridor, and there's a few surprises in there just to make sure you really have a finale.
Yes.
But what did you think of the Christmas cage? Lights out.
I like that, the Christmas cage.
Christmas cage.
To be honest, with the way Walsall keep going from strength to strength, the cage has been nothing but a pleasure to go through. Considering when we went through Friends and Family, one of the lads decided to pick me up. Not once, but twice. And he put me right above his head, the lad did. Mad lad. But he gave me what I wanted. I hadn't been picked up in a maze before. He did that. But I've got a very soft spot for Walsall Scare Maze. It's just a charming maze. The cage has given me again what I want. The finale is exactly the chaos I wanted. They don't even stop when you get out of the cage. You've got a surprise before you even get to the shop at the end.
It's so good.
Do I want more from Walsall? Yeah, I would love to see them keep going down the experiment route. Leave the prison and take it more military and just go ham on us. Just keep going ham on us because I love it.
Yeah, I mean, with Walsall, they're not restricted to the same rules as like a theme park.
No.
So obviously Merlin have their family-friendly approach where it has to be suitable for a certain age range or something, and they keep it to a certain level of intensity. The joy of places like Starbridge and Walsall, they go higher, they go further. They have that intensity that we want to see more of. And I love the intensity they give us, you know. They're in your face, they're fast, they know their mazes, they are full of surprises, improv, and they're just brilliant, you know. The Cage and the Cage Christmas, two very strong mazes. You know, we did Christmassacre last year, thought it was great. This year's raised the bar even higher. I think last year's had a bit more humour to it. This year's had more of a task involved, quite serious, but still had that humorous element that the Christmas events always have. And yeah, I really liked it. I thought that it was fun, intense. You had a reason to keep going forwards because you had that storyline to guide you. It wasn't just, oh, when you go, there's a maze.
Yeah, it wasn't just go for a walk. It's the story starts now and it doesn't end until you leave.
Yeah, because Warsaw's very good at telling a story. I feel like they're probably one of the best best independent mazes. There we go. Best independent mazes for telling stories. Their storytelling is incredible. They're always good at having you in the story from start to finish. They lead you through and there is a story throughout. Unlike some places where they're like, oh, there is a story, but you're not going to hear half of it because you're only going to have a pre-show and that's it.
Well, there's a reason Walsall has won 3 awards. Let's be honest.
They've won more than that.
Well, there's the 3 that I've seen.
There was like 5 on the desk when you walked in the other day.
They look like ornaments.
No, it was for awards. They were all awards. There was 3 awards on them.
Sorry, Walsall.
So obviously last year, Christmassacre won the Best Out-Season Event at ScareCon Awards. I reckon they're on to win a winner again with it this year because that was just such a fun and intense experience.
For an out-of-season scare, I would recommend it all day long.
Mm-hmm. But, of course, we weren't the only people here, so let's go see what James and Dark Shadow thinks. Sam showing for the merchandise there in the transition. So, James, what did you think of Lights Out?
Well, having done the cage 3 times before this, I feel like this is the strongest version of the maze I've done. Having all the lights off really helps, and especially I think sending in groups individually really helps, like get all the actors to target all members of the group, which is great. Really good like personal interactions. Having like the hands-on stuff at the buttons and the like the glow sticks really works great. And yeah, just some of the really good intensity and interactions there were really fantastic tonight. And like even having like the first time I've ever had a chainsaw touch me in a maze. That was fun. Yeah, and like even with the finale, which hasn't really worked for me as well in the past, I think the fact that they kind of made it feel a little bit more enclosed has really helped, and like had the actors really managing to get around that bit great. Yeah, it was just great. So yeah, definitely come to the cage. I'll get it right this time. Yeah, definitely come to the cage at Walsall Scare Maze. Have a great time.
And there you have it. That's what James also thought, as well as a little bit of a look into the event last night. Obviously, didn't film all that much while we were there, just because obviously we can't show you too much because we don't want to spoil anything, and also we can't film inside the mazes. But that's a little look of the area. They have a few various things on offer, as you saw. So you've got the shock chairs, food, drink options. Got a retail shop where, here you go, you can show that pin off again that you just had a second ago. Got your retail where you can buy some little merchandise.
There we go.
There's other merchandise available there as well, like hoodies, plushies, croc charms, keeping things, lots of other things available. You've got a mug.
I did get a mug.
Which we're not showing you because it's in the car. But they also obviously have Enola. Now, we've not done Enola. We're probably never going to do Enola. But Enola is more of a limit-pushing experience. Not designed really to be a scare attraction, but to be designed more of like a limit boundary pushing, intense, extreme scare. This year, I did notice for Christmassacre they had a light version where it took away some of the other elements that they usually include. So I didn't have a full look into it. I kind of noticed it at a glance, but there was things like in the light version there was no shaving, waxing, or hair cutting, I believe. Would it be enough to make me do it? Probably not. But they are heading in the right direction for having different tiers, I guess, of Enola. If they eventually do a tier that I'm interested in, maybe I'll do it, but at the moment it's not happening. Obviously, Enola, you have to sign a waiver. It's a lot more intense and interesting and different, but there are people who have done stuff about that, so if you are interested in finding out a bit more about Enola, go and check out their reviews and their information, because unfortunately not our area. If we do find a great review, I will link it in the comments and description just so you can go and find it out. But obviously the cage is the main reason we went there for. But it is so much fun there, and we really enjoyed it. It was a good night out. Sorry, dying bit over here. But yeah, I've lost my train of thought.
Choo-choo.
Choo-choo. But it's always a really good night out. Obviously, Christmassacre, by the time this video comes out, will have unfortunately ended for this year. It only runs for 3 nights. But be sure to check out Walsall Scare Maze when it returns next year. We don't know what's going to be next year's theme yet. No one knows.
All we know is it'll be bigger and better.
Oh, yeah. They're always pushing it and getting bigger and better each year. But definitely try and get yourself to Christmassacre next year if you can, just for the most perfect Christmassy night out. Take your work group, has a Christmas party. There you go. That's a good idea. I think it'd be a great place for a Christmas party.
Hint, hint.
Hint, hint. But I think we're going to leave this one here for now. But let us know, have you been to Christmassacre this year or any other years? Let us know in the comments what you think. And for now, we'll see you soon and hope you have a Merry Christmas. Just keep the lights on, maybe.
No, turn them off, turn them off.
Keep them on. Bye-bye.